Hey, this is Drew Holmes with Spark Media Solutions. I'm here at the LMA Barrier's recent presentation on generational marketing. I got a chance to chat with the presenters, Heather Morse and Jonathan Fitzgarrald, about some of the challenges with regards to generational marketing. Why is this issue of sort of bridging this generational divide so challenging for the legal industry specifically?
Well, I think for the legal industry, one of the challenges that really comes about is that we're still we haven't merged or rolled over our generations yet. So we still see a large concentration of our leadership with our baby boomers, where we're seeing in the corporate America and especially in the technology realm, where a lot of our law firms represent, they've already had that generational shift. So I think one of the issues that we're facing is what do we do with the backlog of the older people, the older generations who are not retiring, the baby boomers, versus the Generation X who are coming into leadership positions.
The other challenge we have is law firms aren't necessarily known as institutions that are constantly changing, that are on the forefront of change. We always lag behind for some reason. And so I think that makes this generational divide so much more pronounced.
Law firms are big laggards in terms of who they have in power. And I think when you get that diversity of opinion, which is very generational, it becomes very apparent in the way that you look at problems and in the way that you deal with clients.
Once we as marketing folks understand the differences in generations, we can coach our attorneys on new business development opportunities, trying to understand who the prospect is that we're pitching and how to best tailor our message and the value that our firm provides to that prospect.
In so many situations, I've been with a boomer attorney that walks away from meeting with a 25-year-old reporter right out of college, and they say, well, that person was green, they didn't know anything, I couldn't relate to them, and so it's like, I think it's very similar to what with clients. If you're going to bring in a younger reporter, maybe bring in some younger attorneys that really can relate to that reporter.
And what are some of the markers that you guys are looking for to see that these strategies are being successful?
Well, one of the things just talking to a lot of attorneys is that by finding out, and I think probably the easiest one is how do they prefer to receive information? So if Jonathan has a great story that if you send out an email, you can tell if somebody comes back, replies, come see me, I'll talk to you, coming to your office, that's a marker that's going to let you, well, it's a behavior that's going to let you know that that's, somebody who's really into FaceTime, which leads us to know that they're probably more in a baby boomer mentality. If you get a reply back with a really long email, this is a Gen Xer, they don't need the FaceTime, they want to get the work out and go move on to something else. So there are little things that you can start picking up.
Yeah, and Heather brings up a good point. Generational sensitivity is really more centered around a mentality than it is an age bracket. So, it's easy to categorize people by age because you know more or less how old they are. But really what's most important for our firms and for the clients that we serve is to understand what's their generational mentality and how can we customize our communication so that they feel like we're speaking directly to them.
And then the final question is when it comes to sort of this, this specific sort of generation pitch, what generations of lawyers are sort of most receptive to it?
Gen Xers. Shocker.
Gen X really has a lot of adaptability, that they're going to adapt to situations a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I think we'll see them starting to get the hang of this a lot quicker than you are your baby boomers. Baby boomers don't want to change. Everything's fine as far as they're concerned. They don't understand why we need to change. Where Gen X, they're looking both forward and they're looking at who's coming behind them, and they see the need for change, and they're definitely not going to stand around and wait for it to happen. They're going to go in and make the change happen.
Yeah, Gen Xers are so much more ambitious that they will go out and find it, as opposed to the boomers that want to wait for the lockstep for it to come to them.
I think the challenge is the fact that the structure to become partner can be anywhere from 7 to 9 or more years. And the story we got about you really have to pay your dues, and it doesn't work for everybody. So I think we lose associates along the way who say, no, this just is not in my planning to put in these kind of hours because I can do it without it.
There really is no separation between personal and professional life now. Like they said, it's just life. And so we have this big chunk of time that we allocate to different parts of our life. And if we know what motivates us to get up in the morning, to go to work in the morning, why are we in these jobs? Why do we need this money? Do we want to send our kids to college? What is next for us? So if we understand those things across generations, everyone can listen better and be able to hold each other accountable because I think that is important. There are just different ways to do it.
And I don't think that this is a good versus bad technique, or how they're doing it is good versus bad. I think it's just understanding that this is just the way it is, and how do we as marketers and leaders within our firm, because I always like to say I lead up, because I lead attorneys from my position as head of the marketing department, but how do we start to incorporate that into the work that we're doing, because it's not a judgment call. It's just a way of, if I understand what drives you, what motivates you, how you like to receive information, then I can help you better. And that's just really what this is about, is helping them do better, to make better connections, better relationships, build business, build their firms, and to continue to have a healthy work environment.
And provide great client service. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all working for that client, and so anything we can do so that they feel like the service is better and that we understand them, I think serves us all.
And finally, if you could boil it down to one main takeaway, what would it be?
You know what, you have to adapt. I mean, you really do need to adapt. You need to be nimble and adapt to your different cohorts that you're dealing with in the workforce. It's going to be a lot easier for a Generation X member, but you know what, if you're a baby boomer, you've got to learn how to do it as well. It's going to be harder for you to do it, but you have to learn how to be nimble.
Yeah, and I don't think your generation is a fait accompli. It's not all about you, it's about the people that you serve. So understand what their mentality is and tailor your communication to them.